the pure fact that we got a John Cena heel turn before Dallas made it back to the Super Bowl still, to this day, slightly amazes me. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of Because I Have a Live Mic here on Fluent Radio. What's good, everybody? We have a lot to touch on today. Yes, I am in a new setup. Yes, I am enjoying it. Yes, I do miss my crazy cool lights, but we gonna fix that pretty soon. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a great show for you lined up. We're gonna talk about the biggest surprises from the NBA season thus far, such as the Cleveland Cavaliers' unprecedented run and also the Lakers' ascension from bottom to top. We're also going to talk about some of the most disappointments and not so disappointing things going on, such as the Minnesota Timberwolves and Philly. We're also going to talk about my conspiracy theories coming more and more true about the Dallas Mavericks ownership, as well as we're going to talk about the conundrum that the Browns are in when it comes to this Myles Garrett situation. And of course, we're going to touch on the John Cena heel thing. Again, it was so big, it made first take. It made first take. That's how you know it is so big, when it did that. But we will get to that when we get to that. At first, we have to talk about the biggest surprises this season thus far in the NBA, which again, to me, would probably be the Cleveland Cavaliers. No one expected them to be this good, right? Like, they may have the best guard duo in Garland and Donovan Mitchell we have seen in a while, right? Like, they are not just like good. They are good, right? Especially from that Friday game, or was it Saturday? It was one of those two games, one of those 2 days where they came back from being 22 points down in the first quarter to the defending champs. To come back like that, that's something you don't see truly anytime. Like, when you're down 20 something points, and especially in the first quarter, a lot of teams just folded in and say, all right, we're going to try again next week. No, they hung in there and they took the champs to the 15th round and beat them, right? Like, they beat them. And it's not surprising. Well, no, I'm not going to say that it's not surprising. It is hella surprising, right? Like, I anticipated Cleveland to be probably like the fifth or fourth best team in the East. Not for them to have the best record in the NBA, have multiple 10-game winning streaks, taking the champs to the ringer, beating almost all of the top teams in the NBA. For them to be doing this is slightly amazing, and for them to get almost no coverage on it, right? Like, I get it, they're Cleveland. It's not, it's not the cool thing to lead with. It's not this catchy thing to lead with. But for Cleveland to be doing this, and for them to be doing this essentially without LeBron James, because this is something we would expect them to do with a LeBron James or with a Kyrie Irving, something like that on those lines, for them to be doing this with, I'll say it, a ragtag group of, individuals led by Donovan Mitchell, it's shocking to say the least, right? Like, no one thought about this. And it's still a little shocking that Donovan Mitchell is not in the MVP talks, right? Like, for him to have the year that he's averaging almost averaging like 25 points a game, for him to be doing that and not to be in any type of MVP discussion is still amazing to me, which says a lot about the NBA, about what all is going on right now, especially when it comes to like the ratings and everything, right? But for them to have the run that they are having, and for them to get very little, if any, type of screen time, says a lot for the NBA and what's going on in the NBA right now. Because, again, the problem with the NBA is they are all about catchy headlines and spotlights on people. And, like, for them to have a team that is having the record and having the season that the Cleveland Cavaliers are having, and for them to not spotlight them, speaks volume on what's really going on in the NBA and the problem they have about ratings. Because you have, when it comes to watching basketball, you have two camps, right? You have the basketball purists who only care about basketball, don't really care about the drama, don't really watch, First Take or anything like that. They may watch ESPN, but those are more for the highlights and anything like that. And then you have the drama camp sports, right? Like, they love the drama, they love the camp, they love the storylines, they love that. I'm a bit of both. I like the sports, but I also like a little bit of the drama. And for them to essentially be the best of like just pure basketball right now, and for them not to have too much drama going on, it's kind of hurting somewhat the NBA because they want to talk about the Cavs and they want to put them up there, but because it's no drama involved with it, they can't really talk about them right now, and it's hurting, I think, the NBA because the Cavs, like I said, are going on a phenomenal run. They're in the middle of another 10. Again, just think about I did my research. They're the first team in NBA history to have multiple 10 plus game winning streaks in the same season. Imagine that. Like, they have multiple 10 plus winning game streaks. At this record, they are on pace to have probably, like, at the very least, a 70-12 record going into the playoffs. Like, they are having one of those seasons that if in any other time frame, they would be up there on the top of everyone's call sheet when they're talking about sports right now. But because they have very little to no drama going on, it's hard for them to kind of, spark that, essentially that kind of talk inside of their camp. So, like, it's hard for them to kind of get that going. But I think eventually they will, especially once it starts to whittle down and it starts to actually get into playoff talk. I think we'll hear more for the Cavs. I don't know if they can, if they can go to the finals. I mean, that would be a legitimate shock to me if they can run the table and get to the finals. I think it would be a shock because this would be the first time they would be able to get to the playoffs, and I mean not the playoffs, get to the finals without LeBron James or Kyrie Irving on that squad. So it would be shocking. I don't know how far they will go, but I'd love to see it. That would be one of those runs that you talk about for a while. Excuse me. And speaking of going on a run right now, this one isn't a surprise. It is a surprise because the way they did it and the way that they are doing it is more shocking than anything else. Just for the pure fact that no one had the Lakers at the 2 seed, but also no one had the Lakers at the 2 seed with Luka Doncic on that team, right? Like, the Lakers are the number 2 seed in the West right now. And it's more shocking because of the fact that they pulled off, again, a crazy trade that got Luka Doncic over there, and now he's playing at peak level basketball right now. He's playing at a very high level, and he's playing lights out basketball. He's got LeBron playing the best type of basketball he's played since he's been in Miami. And right now, they are firing on all cylinders, right? Defensively, still a little bit question marks on there, but they are firing on all cylinders. And they're going to be a hard out for any team. The duo of LeBron and Luka is something that we did not think we needed, but we're so glad that we have. Because they are playing lights out basketball. And here's the thing, they're still figuring it out. Imagine what they can do once they figure out what they can and can't do with one another. Right? We've already seen it. Like, how many half-court passes have Luka did to LeBron, right? He's the best quarterback right now in LA. Like, this duo can probably outgun Matt Stafford and Puka Nacua. This duo could probably go head-to-head with, well, hell, he don't got real receivers now, honestly, but Brandon Ayuk and Brock Purdy, right? Like, this team is probably the best quarterback wide receiver duo we have seen in a while, and they're still figuring it out. And shouts out to JJ Redick. I don't think he gets enough credit because a lot of people just thought, oh, he was LeBron's podcast buddy. He's not going to really work out in the league. He's just going to, do whatever LeBron says he's going to do. And it's working, right? It had a little hiccups early on. Once they made this trade, once they figured out what their team is without a true center on the squad, they have figured it out. And they are working wonders together. And if they can continue this run, I don't see them not stopping and don't see them not making it to an NBA Finals. I don't see too many teams that can go head-to-head with this. Because not too many teams has a reliable 2 bona fide stars on their team, right? We have questions about Jamal Murray, right? Shea is a great player, but he's the only one that I can truly say I count on when it comes to OKC. Ja's doing great, and Jaren Jackson has got paid, but I don't trust them to be able to take over in there, right? Golden State, I think they can give the Lakers a run for their money, but I don't know if they can stop this Luka Doncic, LeBron James combination. right? Like, and when you go down the list, there aren't too many teams that I can sit here and say, like, yeah, I confidently think they can beat the Lakers, right? Like, they may have an issue maybe if they go against the Denver Nuggets. Again, what they did to the Denver Nuggets can only really work for a few times before great players figure it out. But if they can figure it out and be up maybe 2-1, 2-0, 3-1, something like that, it wouldn't take much to figure it out after that. Especially if they're the 2 seed and they get home court advantage throughout the playoffs. Yeah, no. Good luck trying to figure this out. Good luck. I said it. I said it once they traded it. Once they figure it out how to do this, their best defense would be a great offense, and that's exactly what they have done. They have not looked great on the defensive end, but offensively, they look almost unstoppable. Like Ozempic Luka is in the house. He's had his Weight Watchers. He's been out there doing Pilates with the Lakers, and he's been out there running in that LA air, and he looks great. And the league is, because he's on a mission, because everybody was talking trash about him, right, in that organization. Nico Harrison said they were worried about him smoking hookah and drinking beer. That's just it. That's the European white guy workout. Smoke hookah, drink beer, and then do whatever you want to do because he's still going to drop 30 on you. Luka's the first player at the age of 25 to have a triple-double against every team in the NBA. And you were worried because, he drank beer and smoked hookah too much for our, thing, for us as an organization, while still dropping, like, triple-doubles almost every game. Nah, I smoke all the hookah, smoke all the hashish you want, drink as much beer as you want. Game day come, drop 30, I don't care. Right? Like, every excuse you gave really just gave fuel to that Luka fire. And he is taking every bit of it and going off. Like, y'all messed up big time letting Luka go and saying that he had a worry in the franchise. I don't know what y'all was seeing. I don't know. I honestly don't know. As far as, like, who out of those two teams would I be more shocked? Not even one a final got to a final. Honestly, I think it would be the Cavs. Like, I know a lot of people are saying, like, oh, if LeBron gets back to the finals after doing like LeBron's ceiling is always the NBA finals, right? Like, no matter what team he plays for, no matter what he does, his ceiling is always make it to the NBA finals. For the Cavs, their ceiling was second round, maybe, right? For them to be going on to this run that they are, if they make it to an NBA finals, I think that would be more shocking, more appealing, more of a feel-good story. Does it ring out the headlines? Probably not. It would very much ring out the headlines if it's a Lakers Cavaliers finals. Think about that. LeBron going against his old team. The team he won a championship with had the greatest comeback in the NBA finals history. Having now to go play that team. I can see the storylines now, having to choose between his home court, his hometown, his home city, his home state versus the team that he's playing on right now versus the Lakers, and all of the emotions and everything going. Like, it's a great story to say. If the Cleveland Cavaliers get to the finals, it's a better story than LeBron and the Lakers doing it. The Lakers are always supposed to be in the finals. They are the flagship franchise of the NBA. The Cleveland Cavaliers, minus a LeBron James, are essentially the Bad News Bears. They're a great story to tell you. If they make it, cool. If they don't, oh well. But if we can get a LeBron James, Lakers versus Donovan Mitchell's Cavaliers finals, chef's kiss. You talk about storylines right there. That is a storyline for your ass. As far as, like, surprises go, I mean, I think the biggest disappointment probably has to go to, like, the Minnesota Timberwolves to fall from grace the way they kind of did is not shocking after the trade of Ant. I mean, not Ant, of Cat. Uh, it's not so much shocking, but I think the pressure has just kind of got to them this year, right? Because they were very much, favorites for, like, to get to the finals. They were dark horse, candidates. Ant was talking about in like MVP type of category. And like for them to kind of have this fall off is not shocking to people once you trade away. And who was, I mean, Cat. Why do I keep saying Ant? Because I want to talk about Ant, but I gotta wait. Cat, to trade away Cat, your best player, especially when he was finally kind of coming into his own, so to speak, especially there. They were building something there. Understandably why they did not want to pay him. Like they have a bunch of young players and they thought Nas Reed could kind of take that next step and be, the next, kind of Cat. But he didn't really take that step. Mike Conley is getting older. This is the Mike Conley from Memphis. Like this is a little bit more older. And, Dante DiVincenzo's been hurt for a while. Everything's kind of been rolling kind of downward for the Minnesota Timberwolves since that trade, and they haven't really been playing at a consistently high level. And then, the whole controversy around Ant being the face of the league and, them talking about how he doesn't want it and people bring it. This is the stuff I talk about where the NBA has now become more of a reality TV show than actual sports, right? Like I know the tinfoil hat people. Oh, I told you, sport. Every sport is scripted. Every sport is scripted. They have their talking points, so they got to stick to it. Like, dog, I watch wrestling. Telling me a sport is scripted doesn't faze me from watching it. Like, oh my gosh, thanks for telling me something I probably already knew. But I just think the pressure is getting to Ant a little bit more than he's giving off. And that's why he's kind of having an off year, so to speak, right? Like some games he looks spectacular. Some games he looks like the old Ant. Some games he doesn't. Like his off the court kind of antics kind of cloud some of his stuff on the court, right? The whole thing with the baby mama drama and telling her that yeah, he hates her. The whole thing with Obama and people trying to blow that out of proportion. He's a YN. He's from Atlanta. Like he's an Atlanta YN. What do you expect? And I'm not shocked that he's like, no, I don't want to be the face of the league. I don't want to be the poster boy for everything. And I'll say this. For like people who sit up there saying like, well, if you didn't want to be the face of the league, why'd you sign that contract with Sprite and Adidas? If you didn't want to be the face of the league, you shouldn't have did that. Money, my guy. Why are you on TV talking about this? Not because you love it. It's because they paying you to do it. They pay them to do that. You mean to tell me I can make more money on top of the money I'm already getting? Oh yeah, sign me up. Of course they're gonna do that. I have not met a superstar yet who's been like, nah, I'm good. I don't want no endorsement deals. I just want the money from the NBA and I'm just gonna play and get my NBA money. I have never met a player turn down endorsement deals. That doesn't make them pseudo face of the league because they signed like $100 million contract with Adidas or Nike or you know Sprite, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, whatever, right? Like it doesn't make them the face of the league because they're making money. The face of the league is earned, not given. LeBron earned it. Michael Jordan earned it. Kobe Bryant earned it. Magic Johnson earned it. It wasn't given to them. They earned it. And until a player is ready to step up and earn it, there will not be a face of the league until somebody is ready for it. And I think the pressure of them trying to make Anthony Edwards the face of the league is getting to his on the field, on the court play, I should say, and it's messing them up. And that's why they're in the play-in tournament after being, a higher seed last year. Everything from the trade to all of this stuff from the Olympics, everything is just sorely starting to roll downhill. And they're going to eventually break it up, right? Because I'm pretty sure, like I said, the NBA is going to keep trying to push Anthony Edwards to be the face of the league. So they probably want to get him out of Minnesota. Minnesota will probably be thankful because they'll get rid of that luxury cap. So they'll have a little bit more money to spend. But I do think that the next few years for Minnesota is going to be kind of where they start to make their play to kind of make that run, right? I don't think Luka's going to leave LA after this year. I think he's going to sign with them again. I'm not 100% sure. I can't say. But I don't think if Luka leaves LA, he'll go from like an LA market to a smaller market in Minnesota. I don't think the league is going to allow that. Like, nah, dog, you can go any place else, but no small markets. You can go pick a LA team. You can pick a New York team, Chicago, go back to Texas, wherever you want to go. Do not pick a small market team. I think, honestly, they're probably going to make a play for Kevin Durant. I think they'll make a play for Kevin Durant, team him up with Anthony Edwards, try to make that one last run with with those two, I can see it happening because I think they're kind of sort of in that win now mode a little bit. But I can see that happening. I just don't see them getting like a super big name. I think they'll get one of those, not saying KD is not a super big name anymore, but I just think they'll make a play for him because he's a cheaper star and he still has a lot of years left in him and he can still be highly productive, especially on side of someone like an Anthony Edwards. But I just think right now everything is getting to them and the pressure is slowly but surely breaking them down because they're not used to that level of pressure. So I just think it's slowly but surely getting to Anthony Edwards. So we'll see how it goes because again they're still in the play-in tournament. They can make a late season run and kind of make that kind of last second push to kind of push them over the edge, but I don't see it happening. I just think there are too many good teams above them, and even if they do make it in, they have to play a team like a LA, they have to play a team like a Memphis, they have to play a team like OKC in that first round, and I don't think they match up well with them. So speaking of pressure and breaking down, let's talk about Joel Embiid and the 76ers. Because I said this years ago. You can go back, you can check the records. Mel, if you want to pull them up, you can. Sandra, you want to do it too. I said this years ago. Get rid of Joel Embiid because he is going to be basically the albatross around your neck. He is going to be that. And now everyone is seeing it. He's out for the rest of the year. They have to break a bone in his hip to put in his ankle so that way he can play. The 76ers are done. Joel Embiid's trade value is no longer as high as it should be. Paul George he's washed. I'm sorry, he's washed. He's done. He's washed. It's no more PG-13. It's no more any of that. You don't need to take a parent to go see this movie anymore. You can send the kids by themselves because he is washed. He is done with. The process failed. The process was a terrible thing from the start, and they never really had an end goal in mind. It failed miserably. You have some great building blocks there with Maxey, with Mikal. You have not Mikal. Said Mikal. You have great there with Jared. You have all of that there. You need to break this team down and start from scratch. Because the process has failed. It is over with. It is done with. I'm sorry. I hate to break it to you, but it is done. You missed the opportunity to trade Joel Embiid when he was higher up there. And now you're in a crossroads. Joel is done for the season. Paul George might as well be done because here's the thing. If you keep going and on some spectacular thing, you end up making a run in the play-in, you mess up because now that pick that you used to get Paul George goes to OKC. So now they have a chance in the draft to get maybe a Cooper Flag. Probably not. But hey, draft lottery, crazier things have happened. So if you bottom out and finish in the bottom 6, you at least keep your draft pick. But on the flip side of that, you have no money because almost $400 million is tied up between two players who probably aren't going to be able to play for you in the foreseeable future. This is what happens when you constantly try, instead of going around there and saying, like, you know what? We have hit the roadblock. We know our ceiling for everything we have done is the second round of the playoffs. Let's break this thing down. Trade Joel Embiid, get whatever we can for him, get young players, get whatever we need from him, try to figure out what we can do with this team going forward. Because as of right now, you are in purgatory. You are stuck. You cannot move forward. You can't go back. You are stuck. Clowns on the left of me, jokers in the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Y'all have nothing to show for everything that y'all have tried to build. And now, the worst part about this is, like I said, you can't go anywhere. You're stuck. You missed the opportunity to trade Joel Embiid when he was high. He's out for the season again. They have to break a bone in his hip and put it in his ankle. So even if he does come back, he is not going to be the same player that he was before. Joel Embiid has never been a true type of big man where he just stays in the paint and takes balls and dunks them on people, does a little dream shake, shoots up the little mid-court fadeaway. No, Joel Embiid likes to be outside, likes to shoot threes, he likes to run the floor. He can't do that anymore now. After the surgery, he is done with. After the surgery, he is not going to be the same type of player that he was. He has to figure out what he can and cannot do, and I don't know if teams will have time to figure that out with him. I don't know if teams are going to take a chance on a guy who can't stay healthy. I don't know if you're going to take a chance on a guy who can't stay in their lineup. If they're going to try and build a team around him, is this going to be successful enough to work? I don't know if they have the time frame to kind of sit there and figure this thing out. So as of right now, the 76ers are screwed. Do they keep losing and keep that pick and build for the future? Do they try to win, lose the pick, and maybe get into a play-in game just to get bumped out in that? Or if they're lucky enough, get into the playoffs, maybe be the 8th seed and run into the buzzsaw that is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Get to a 7th seed and run into a Boston who you haven't beat yet. Right? There is no win-win situation here for Philadelphia. They are screwed no matter what. And they did it to themselves. From Marquez Fultz to Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, everything in between, Norris Noel, everything in James Harden, Doc Rivers, everything in between. They had no plan for success. They just kind of hoped. They hoped that Markelle Fultz's shot would get better. They hoped Norris Noel would be able to kind of be the player that he was coming out of college. They hoped that Doc Rivers was whatever happened to him in LA was just a fluke. They hoped that Joel Embiid would be the process that kept going. They had hope, but no type of vision. What Herm Edwards says, hope without a vision is just a wish. They wished Markelle Fultz was good. They wished Joel Embiid would stay healthy. They wished Doc Rivers figured out how to coach. This team was wishing upon a star, and it never happened. They were wishing upon a star, wondering where you are. Now they're gonna. I bet you in this offseason they're gonna try to shop around Joel Embiid to see what they can get for him. They'll probably get some team that feels like they can work with Joel Embiid, that can feel like maybe coming off the bench he can work, maybe something like that. But they're not going to get the trade value that they could have gotten for him years ago. So as far as this goes, Philadelphia 76ers stuck in the middle again. Speaking of being stuck in the middle with people you don't want, I said this some time ago that the Dallas Mavericks owners are trying to run this team out the city because they wanted a casino in Dallas. They're not going to get a casino in Dallas. So now they're trying to run this team out of the city, take them to Vegas and build a casino stadium there. It's slowly but surely looking like that is the truth, right? Because now the Mavericks owners have just announced that they're going to raise ticket prices, citing investments in the city. They are officially trying to run this team out of Dallas. They are trying to run this team out of Dallas. Because why are you raising ticket prices after one of your biggest stars you just traded away because he was too lazy? Another star of yours in Kyrie Irving just got hurt and could potentially miss the rest of the regular season. You don't have any true upside going forward for you in any time soon. And now you're raising ticket prices because, hey, investments in the city is making us do it. They are trying to run this team out of the city. They are trying to, and it is probably going to work because they're probably going to lose, especially nowadays in this economic time frames where people don't have expendable throwaway money like that. Right? Like most people literally save up their hard-earned dollars for one time they can go to one game. right? Like this is not back in the day where tickets were, cheaply, able to be bought and people could spend money at a stadium and still walk away and still feel comfortable about their situation going home. Like, no, like times are hard now. People do not have disposable income like that. It's even worse that they did it around tax time. They knew it. They knew that they did it around tax time. That's even eviler. But they are trying to run this team out the city, and they are trying to do everything and anything possible to make sure that it goes through. And I don't know if Dallas is going to cave and be like, okay, you know what, you can have your casino. Because for the owners of it, again, it's not Mark Cuban anymore. He's not the majority owner. It's the Adelson family. For them, it's easy. They can take this Dallas Maverick loss, right? They can write this loss off and go about their business. For the fans of that team since its inception, the workers that work there, not just the players. I'm talking about the workers, the concession stand workers, t-shirt workers, the people who run the stadium, the janitors, the ushers, the players, the coaches, this coaching staff, the medical trainers. For like all of those people, it is going to be a huge loss, right? Like they're going to lose their jobs, right? Players and coaches can find another job sorely easy, right? Like fairly easy. They can find another job. Concession stand workers, ushers, technicians, all of those people can't just up and get another job super quick, right? And this is the thing that I do not like about people who don't care about sports teams buying them and looking at it as a quote unquote, I know this is going to sound weird, a business, right? Because this is not just some business you can buy, shred apart, break down in parts, and sell off the parts for money, right? This is a business as far as this is a franchise, a face name franchise of a very popular league. And I don't know if the NBA can eventually step in and be like, okay, we need to see what's going on over here because this is starting to get very fishy very fast. And now it's starting to not only affect the team, the city, the state of Texas, it's starting to affect the NBA bottom line. And again, no matter what, the NBA, the one bottom line you don't want to mess with is the NBA's bottom line. Like, I don't think this will be enough to move this team. Like, they have to go, obviously, they have to go drastically to the left to kind of do that, right? Like, they have to basically get rid of everybody on that team and start over from scratch and get some scrubs on that team to do that. But this is starting to get dangerously close to where the NBA may have to step in and be like, okay, what are y'all trying to do? If this casino is that big of a deal, we'll give you a team in Vegas, leave the Dallas Mavericks alone. Because at this point, fans are going to start revolting. Fans are going to want to go pay a higher ticket price to see a low quality product. Yeah, they still may have Kyrie Irving, but he's going to be hurt for a while, like I said. Yeah, they have Derek Lively and, Guilford and all of those guys, but those aren't named stars. Like, people aren't going to pay a lot of money to see them. They've already traded their biggest ticket away in Luka Doncic. They don't have the cachet right now to say, hey, we're going to raise ticket prices to do that. And my conspiracy theory tinfoil hat is continue to stay on, and where I say they are trying to ruin this franchise to push the city of Dallas, the state of Texas, into a corner and say, we will take a team that makes you a lot of money. Because again, like, people forget, like, the stadium by itself just doesn't also, recruit money. Hotels, bars, housing, everything around there goes up and down according to that team. If you take away that team, bars are going to close. You take away that team, hotels aren't going to be able to function right. People are going to lose their jobs. And if they continue to mess with this money and they continue to push Dallas into a corner, I don't know if Dallas is going to blink. I don't know if the state of Texas is going to blink when it comes to this casino, but they may. They may do it. But hey, congratulations, Dallas. At least you found an owner worse than Jerry Jones. Well, now we're done with that conspiracy theory. Let's talk about some NFL. news. The Browns are in a the Browns are in a predicament because as of now, they said that they're not going to trade Myles Garrett and they're going to work with him to get him a better contract and see what they can do to kind of help this team win. And Myles Garrett is just like, nah, I want to go. Right? Like, y'all have had 8 years to fix this thing and y'all have made it significantly worse. Right? Um, for him to have the stats that he has had on a team that has underperformed almost all of his tenure in the Cleveland Browns, he deserves every right to want to leave. And I just think Cleveland trying to hang on to him is just a desperate attempt to is a desperate attempt to try to make themselves still relevant because they know if Myles Garrett is gone, they have no franchise. He is their best player. He is their franchise. If he's gone, they have nobody there. But not only that, it's just also be for money reasons. Why? Right? Because if they trade him, they get hit with a 30 million cap hit. Like that's a hit they cannot take because they don't have any money as it is now. And for them to take that hit, even with the salary cap increasing, it will not benefit them at the slightest. But also, I just think trading him now would kind of open the floodgates. And I think it needs to be open. I think the Cleveland Browns have perpetually been in a state of starting over, right? Like they have not had success at a high level in a tough division for years, right? They traded away Baker Mayfield to get Deshaun Watson, and he never really worked out between his, on the field stuff, between his off the field stuff, everything like that. It never really worked out the way they thought. And they traded away a guy that got them in a deep playoff run. And now they're kind of trying to start from scratch because they don't think Deshaun Watson is going to be healthy at the start of the season. They don't think Deshaun Watson is still going to be the player that he was in Houston. They don't really have too many options there. So my best bet would be to trade away every asset that you have to kind of build over, right? Like, because again, if they trade Myles Garrett, that opens up the floodgates for players like Jerry Jeudy. That opens up the floodgates for Nick Chubb. That opens up the floodgates for Denzel Ward, David Njoku, all of their best assets. That opens up the floodgates for them, right? And it would be a hard sell, but they could be like, okay, well, we traded all these players away. We got draft capital back. So, hey, we're going to try to start over again and build this franchise, right? And I think that's what they should do, because if they don't do that and they continue to just be the squallow that they are, they're never going to get better, right? And they're in a division where it is the toughest division in football. You have two teams that have two MVP caliber quarterbacks in Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrows, right? You have say what you want about his playoff record, but you have a coach in Mike Tomlin that knows how to coach in the regular season. Once they find them a quarterback, it could be all over. You don't have a true quarterback. You don't have a running back. You don't have a true number one receiver. You've got to start trading away some of these assets to get better if you want to be in the elite category of the NFC North. And I just think that trading away someone like a Myles Garrett would definitely work. Because you can get a first round pick for Myles Garrett. You can get several first round picks for Myles Garrett. You can get multiple picks for Denzel Ward. You can get multiple picks for David Njoku. You can get multiple picks for Jerry Jeudy. And you can, at the very least, have that base level start to where you can go forward in the future. Because if you don't, you're just going to be stuck in the same mud pit that you guys are in now. But here's the flip side of that. If they trade him after January 1st, they don't, not January, June 1st, sorry, June 1st, they don't get hit with that cap hit does get cut in half to about 15 million. So it's a little bit better. But now you've missed out on opportunities to get players in this draft. You've missed out on opportunities to get picks down the line. You are basically at the start at the start of minicamp and training camp season. So now you're trying to find a place to get Myles Garrett to go to in the middle of like the most hectic time for in NFL, play. So you would kind of just basically screw yourself over if you don't trade him now. Like, there is no option. I know you guys don't want to do it, but you guys don't have a choice in trading him now. You have to do it now. Bite the bullet. Take the $30 million loss. Get young players. Have this team build up. After the scouting combine, we saw ain't too many quarterbacks in this draft that you can kind of count on. So you might as well grab somebody you can find quick and like, all right, we're going to stick with you for right now until we can either get something better. Go get a Sam Darnold. Go get, well, Matthew Stafford said, nah, I ain't going there. Go get you somebody that can at least play the quarterback position until you can find your quarterback for the future. But if you're the Cleveland Browns, you have to figure out what you're going to do in this situation because you're stuck literally in the mud at this moment. You can't, again, like same thing with the Philadelphia 76ers. You can't move forward and you can't go back. You're literally stuck in the middle. And I know it's not the more popular thing to do, but hey, Myles Garrett has said he's going to tear up any contract. I do not think he will play for the Cleveland Browns if they don't trade him this offseason. I do think he will sit out. It would not be a shock to me. Nick Chubb has said he wants to leave. There are other players who probably have not said it, but have quietly thought about doing it. You are not the franchise right now where you once used to be. Hell, you barely are that now. Hell, you barely used to be a franchise, right? Like, it was that one time in the early Elway years where y'all was like formidable, and then like early in Baker's years, right? When y'all had like Odell and Jarvis Landry out there. Y'all are long past those years, and y'all didn't even make it work with them, by the way. Y'all didn't even make it work with them. So y'all are long past those years. You have to make a splash play. And if that means trade, again, it's messed up when the fans are just like, nah, I understand. No, you have every right to do that. Go ahead, dog. Go ahead, get your money. Go ahead, get your ring. Go ahead, leave. Like, we understand. Like, you've lost it when the fans are like, nah, you cool. We ain't even mad at you, dog. You do what you got to do. Like, that's how you have lost this franchise, when the fans are just like, your best player wants to leave, and the fans are like, I'm okay with that. Like, you've lost it then. So at this point, there's no fighting it. There's no trying to like figure out how we can move around this. No, just let him go. Let him trade him. Don't let him walk. You have to get some type of value for this player. You don't let him walk just freely. Trade him now. Trade him while his value is high. Don't let him get, don't have him. I don't think, like I said, I don't think he's going to play because I don't think he's going to get hurt, risk getting hurt, or anything like that. But trade him now. Build for the future down the line. That's the only thing you can do. Speaking of building for the future, I watched some of the Underwear Olympics. I'm not going to lie to you. I watched a little bit of it. Mostly, like I said, I just watched the quarterbacks. And, oh boy, y'all were wondering why Shador and Cam didn't want to throw. Those quarterbacks are hot garbage. This could be the weakest quarterback class we have seen. Like, almost all of them, from Quentin Ewers, Jalen Milroe, the dude Riley Leonard from Notre Dame, all of them who were like these top prospects and everything going into it, they all look so terrible. Especially Jalen Milroe. Like, Jalen Milroe messed up on his opportunity. He's probably hurt. That's why he didn't run the 40. But you lost a lot of money out there trying to throw. And like, people saw that you are a project. Like, he was early touted as like an early second round pick, maybe mid second round. Right now, his talent is looking like he'd be third or fourth round pick. That significantly cuts into your money, big dog. And it looked bad. Right? Shador and Cam sitting out did themselves a huge favor. Because if they go into their pro days and look anything like they did while they were playing, they're golden. Like, they are definitely going to go be the first quarterback and second quarterback off the board. They are golden. Like, that was a calculated play by them. They said, you know what? We're not going to throw. We just going to do all the interviews we need to do and figure it out later. And they did that, and it worked spectacular. I ain't mad at the calculated risk that they took. And the only thing I will say like about the underwear Olympics this year is like the linebackers look great. Like this is probably going to be a better class for linebackers. The cat out of Georgia, he looked great. He looks like he's probably going to be a top linebacker off first linebacker picked off the board. I heavily think this is going to be a defensive heavily draft after last year being very much offensively driven. I definitely think this will be a more defensive led draft this year. Um, I just think last year was heavy offense. This year is going to be heavy defense because teams have seen now how to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think they're going to start to build towards that. And I just think that this draft really helped defensive players out a lot. Offensive players, we all knew what they were. We all knew that they were. We had some spectacular ones coming out, but I definitely think the combine this year helped heavily, heavily favored the defensive players this year. So we did get a. I don't know if it's a big trade, but it is a decent trade. Debo Samuels traded from the San Francisco 49ers to the Washington Commanders for a fifth round pick. And I think this is best for both parties. I think Debo's time in San Francisco came to an end. It definitely went sour near the end. Like he got his money and he didn't really play up to the level of his money. Brandon Ayuk, same deal. And I think the franchise for the San Francisco 49ers are kind of going through a little upheaval right now. They don't know what they're going to do with Brock Purdy because he is going to be due some big money, and they don't know if they can trust him fully to kind of give him the level of money that he's going to be asking for. And I mean, I just think it was a good move for Debo saying, let's get out of there. It's time to start somewhere fresh, somewhere new, somewhere, different. And starting in Washington is probably the best place for him, right? I think adding him to that offense with the Jaden Daniels, giving him the flexibility of having someone who is a running back slash receiver kind of gives them that little bit of edge that they may need coming up next year. Um, and for Washington, it's a low risk, low reward type of deal, right? You traded him for a fifth round pick. You get him. He works out great. You get over the hump. You can get to the Super Bowl. Cool, right? If it doesn't work out, cool. You didn't waste a lot of capital on him. And if it doesn't work out, you can always cut him and move on, right? Like so, it's a great deal. I think for both parties. I think both parties came out on top on this. I think who benefited more probably Washington because they get if he's coming ready to play a reliable, second option, a reliable, kind of, flexible player that can play multiple positions over the field. It gives Jaden Daniels kind of that, safety blanket stretch field option. Now you kind of have a hard time covering him, Terry McLaurin, Brian Robinson Jr., if they keep Austin Eckler, they have a hard time kind of covering all of this field, so to speak. And it helps him out. He gets him another big time receiver that kind of helps his growth and help fight off that sophomore slump that hopefully doesn't come for Jaden Daniels. But I just think this was a smart move on both parties, and both parties came out on top of this. I know a lot of people are just questioning about it, but I don't think that. I think this was a smart move for each party because, again, low risk, low reward for Washington. San Francisco got him out of the locker room, who he was kind of slowly but surely kind of becoming a locker room cancer a little bit near the end there. But I just think this is a great move on both parties. So I I have to give it to you, WWE. You pulled something off I did not expect y'all to pull off. Y'all turned John Cena heel. And the way you did it was so chef's kiss, right? Someone needs to tell Travis Scott that you don't need to hit him that hard because he clocked Cody Rhodes. I'm pretty sure they had a conversation about that back in the back. It was like, hey, you got to hit me that hard. Now, calm down. No, you was all in the moment and everything. Relax. Bring it back some, Travis. But no, for all my wrestling fans, for all of them, this was a moment that we thought probably never would have happened. Like 20 years in the making. John Cena turned face, and for people who don't understand, like face in wrestling terminology is just the good guy, right? Like he's the good guy. He kisses, the white meat baby face, right? Like he kisses the babies, he shakes your hand, he does everything by the book, he doesn't cheat, he does everything, straight up. Then you have the heel, which is the bad guy who, cheats, steals, does everything, underhandedly, anything to win. And for John Cena, he is the poster boy of baby faceness for like 20 plus years, right? Like he's been a white meat baby face since 2003. So like for him to pull this switch off on his what is maybe his final run, I don't know now because he's a heel, so he could always stretch it out a little bit more. But now to turn heel, align himself with The Rock, his enemy, so to speak, to go after Cody Rhodes, the new kind of white meat baby face that everybody, is getting somewhat tired of, kind of helps freshen up this story a little bit. Because I'll be honest with you, Cody Rhodes' time as WWE champion has kind of been hit or miss. He hasn't had any real, like, heat to his story since he won it off of Roman Reigns in Philly at WrestleMania 41. Like this kind of adds a little bit more, oomph to the story, right? Because you have John Cena, like I said, the perennial babyface, the guy that always did it straight up in his final run, who is going after Ric Flair's WWE record. Again, they love to tout like 17-time world champion Ric Flair. It's really 21, but that's crossing hairs into a place y'all are not ready to go just yet. That's crossing into like real wrestling. So we'll not talk about that. But yeah, he's going to beat Ric Flair, 17-time champion, and he wants to do it. He was telling everybody he wants to do it the same way he's done it all the time, straight up. And for him to take essentially the easy way out, align himself with The Rock, and sort of be like, no, I don't care about hustling up, getting this the right way. Your loyalty means nothing and your respect means even less to me now. I want to be forever etched in the wrestling book as the greatest to ever do it. For him to do it like that was spectacular. It was spectacular. And for him to turn heel the way he turned heel too, like this is probably the second best heel. Like there are 4 heel turns that kind of changed the trajectory of wrestling, right? The first one was Austin turning heel at WrestleMania X7 when he aligned himself with his arch rival Vince McMahon. No one saw that coming. Austin was the hottest babyface going into WrestleMania. They just had that, like, if you have time, I tell everybody, if you want to find out how to get into wrestling, watch the Rock versus Austin hype video for WrestleMania X7. If you can't get hyped for that, there is nothing I can do to get you to watch wrestling. That video was legitimately the best wrestling promo video ever. From the Limp Bizkit. That's probably anytime anyone ever said Limp Bizkit is the best at anything. So let's just take that. So there's that one. There's the Deadly Games where The Rock turned on, when The Rock turned on Mankind and became the corporate champion, right? The Rock was the people's champion. He was, again, another one of those white meat baby faces everyone was tired of. This was right before he kind of became The Rock, right? Like he was still, you saw glimpses of it. It was still kind of like Nation of Domination Rock. And, you kind of see where it was coming with The Rock, but you never really got it. But you saw it kind of sort of coming with The Rock. There's the Hogan turn, which arguably to me is the greatest heel turn to ever exist, right? Because Hogan did it when, at the time frame, WCW was kind of failing. Hogan turning heel, joining the NWO, basically kickstarted the wrestling era that everyone loved. The Attitude Era, I hate giving Hogan credit for it, but the Attitude Era started with Hogan, right? That's the one thing I will give him credit for doing, right? If it wasn't for the fact that he turned on Macho Man and Sting and he, basically became, Hollywood Hogan, became in the NWO, forming the NWO, becoming one of the most popular factions in all of wrestling history. essentially pushed WCW to be, dominate the rating for 88 weeks straight. Pushed WWE to kind of make the Attitude Era kind of go forward. So again, Hogan kind of had a hand in creating groups like DX and all of those things. So like, you give Hogan credit for that somewhat. But this turn, I don't think is as big as the Hogan turn, but it's something that people have been clamoring for a while. And for Cena to be able to do it when he is now 50, when he knows that, he can't go. The story is he can't go with these young guys, right? Like, he's seen it, right? He was in the Rumble. He was so close to winning the Royal Rumble. He couldn't hang with these young guys. So now he sees his opportunities flailing and he wants to be the guy. And now for him to be the guy, he has to team with the one person that he told everybody he would never become. And for the pure fact that he has now joined forces with The Rock, a guy he lambasted a decade ago for, leaving wrestling and going off to Hollywood, and for him to do the exact same thing is so perfect. Like, the storytelling around this is so great. And I will give Triple H credit where credit is due. He has been very good at storytelling. He has a problem in the middle where he kind of draws it out, like the Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan thing. Kind of drew it out a little bit longer than it should have been. But this one, if he can get it right, will probably be his defining moment as like the head booker for WWE. If he can get this right, if he can nail this right here, this will be what makes his legacy go forward. And I can't wait to see the stories that they're going to tell, from John Cena not showing up or showing up sporadically, Cody Rhodes and The Rock having to tell this story, how Travis Scott is just going to be randomly involved in this somehow. And I hope that they don't boggle this and make Cena some one-dimensional, just like, oh, I did it because I want to be the champion and I just knew that the best way for me to do it was to join forces with her. I hope they don't do that, just make him some one-dimensional bad guy who just wanted to do it because he wants to win. Like, I hope they add levels to it, right? He wants to go out on top. He knows that he has to go out on top. And the only way for him to do it was to join forces with the guy he said he would never become. That would be great storytelling. That's why I think Cena should win. I think Cena should win. I think Cena should win the title. He doesn't have to hold it for long. He doesn't have to hold it for like until next year's WrestleMania where he'll drop it to somebody. He doesn't have to do like a Roman Reigns thing and hold it for forever. Like, if he holds it for 6 months, 8 months, that's fine. Hell, if he holds it for 3 months, I'm okay with that. If he can drop it at SummerSlam, that's no big deal to me. But I hope they can just hope he wins the title, because I think he should win the title. I think that's the perfect way to kind of cap off and start the story over again, where Cody now has to kind of go through basically The Rock and Cena, two of the most powerful people in the WWE, all by himself. Because if you look at the story that they're telling, last year Cody had help. He had Seth. He had Roman. He had Seth. He had Jey Uso. He had Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. All of those guys are tied up in their own thing. Jey Uso is going after Gunther for the World Heavyweight title, so he can't help. Cody chose Roman and helped out Jey. Kevin Owens doesn't like Cody for that, so he's not going to help him. Sami Zayn is tied up with the whole Kevin Owens thing, so he can't help him. He's essentially having to do this on his own. Seth is basically obsessed with CM Punk, and CM Punk doesn't even care anymore. He just wants to fight someone. So Cody has to now do this on his own, and he doesn't have any help, and that is the best story you can tell. Cody has to now try to basically fight off, essentially, the powers to be at WWE to win back the thing that he basically fought tooth and nail for 2 whole years to get. And if they can nail this story, this would be the best story in WWE in the modern era. This would be right up there with the whole Bloodline saga. This would be right up there with, I was going to say, it started good, but the Rhea Ripley thing kind of teetered off towards the end. Like, this would be up there with the Bloodline saga. The Bloodline saga was the best wrestling saga in the modern day of WWE. So if this is Triple H's piece de la resistance for his time as head booker. If he can nail this, this will be the best storyline in WWE in the modern day era. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is my time. Shout out to Fluent Radio for putting me on. Shout out to y'all for listening. Until next time, guys, I got 2 fingers for you. Deuces. Because I Have a Live Mic was proudly presented to you by Fluent Radio, where all things are fluent. Please like, share, and subscribe. All right, 2 fingers. Deuces.